Hello Year 5 and welcome to our third lesson on the rainforest. We're going to quickly start off with our knowing more, remembering more, and thinking about what are the layers of the rainforest. So we have 4 questions here which we are going to do as part of our knowing more and remembering more from our previous lesson. I want you to answer the questions and pause the video before you move on to see if you were right. The first question, number 1, climate is the daily weather conditions in an area. Is this true or false? Question number 2, which of the below are types of rainforests? Is it barren, arid, tropical, or temperate? Question number 3, describe the climate of a tropical rainforest. And question number 4, what does biodiversity mean? Please pause your video now before you move on to your answers. Excellent. Well done if you were able to remember and recall our learning from our previous lesson. Number 1, the climate is the daily weather conditions in an area. That is actually false. The climate is measured over an average over a period of years. Question number 2. So we learned in our last lesson that there are 2 different types of rainforests, a tropical and a temperate rainforest. So well done if you were able to tick or understand and recall that it was a tropical and temperate rainforest. Question number 3. Describe the climate of a tropical rainforest. Well, you could have written or you could have said hot, rains heavily, and is frequently vegetated, I would say. Question number 4. What does biodiversity mean? Well, biodiversity includes a variety of life, plants, and wildlife, all cohabitating in a particular area. So our objectives for our lesson today. We are going to be looking at how I can identify the 4 layers of the rainforest. I know the features of the different layers, and I can explain how the different layers of the rainforest create biodiversity. So remember, if there's any time we are unsure of anything that we are learning, we always have to refer back to our knowledge organizer. Our knowledge organizer has our definition of our key vocabulary, such as biodiversity. So remember, when we are referring to some of the vocabulary and we are unsure, we can always go back to our knowledge organizer. As you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, there is also an image which demonstrates the different layers of the rainforest, which is what we are going to be exploring in this lesson. So if at any point you are unsure, please come back to this part of the lesson so that you can get the clarity and information from the knowledge organizer. So our vocabulary, words that you already know: species, plants, animals, biodiversity. And keywords that you're going to meet in this lesson are emergent, canopy, under canopy, and the forest floor. And if you recall, we also looked at the different layers of the rainforest in autumn 2. So we're going to revisit what is biodiversity. If you see here, we looked at these pictures in our last lesson that we had online, and we can see that there is an array, a range of pictures across and down of different images from the rainforest. We can see the cheetahs, we can see rainfalls, waterfalls, we can see the different birds that live there and the different types of trees. So biodiversity refers to the variety of life. It is seen in the number of species in an ecosystem or on the entire Earth. What do we know about the climate of the Amazon? So before we move on and actually reveal what we know, I want you to have a think about what do you already know about the climate of the Amazon. Remember, a climate is the weather and the temperature that has been measured over a period of years, and it's the average. So what do we know about the climate of the Amazon? Why don't you pause this video and have a think? Great. So the climate is ideal for plants to grow quickly. They compete for sunlight, which they need to make their own food. And these plants provide food and shelter for a huge variety of animal species. The rainforests are found in regions which are near the equator, which is an imaginary line around the middle of the earth. And these regions are hot and very wet and called the tropics. And last week in our lesson, we were able to use the map to identify where the rainforests were located around the world. Can you remember what the two different tropics are called? Excellent. You should have been able to recall. You have the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer. So thinking about rainforests and thinking about how they are made up, rainforests are divided into 4 layers or stories, and each story or layer has a different name. You have an emergent layer, the canopy layer, the understory, the forest floor, or also known as the shrub layer. Each layer receives a different amount of sunlight and rainfall, so different types of animals and plants are found in each layer. The emergent layer is right at the top where the tallest trees are. Then the next set of trees just below it is the canopy of the rainforest. Below the canopy, you have the understory. And right at the bottom, you have the forest floor, or also known as the shrub layer. The emergent layer has high treetops that rise above everything else. Above the canopy, this layer gets the most sunlight and the most rain and is much more windy. The tallest trees can reach heights of up to 7 centimeters, and these treetops are home to eagles, vultures, bats, monkeys, and butterflies. So you can see in the image on the left, the emergent trees are overlooking and overshadowing the canopy trees below them. This is because they get the most sunlight and waterfall, and this enables them to grow at a quicker rate than the other trees below them. The next layer is the canopy, which is made up of thick branches and leaves, which are taller and leaves of taller trees. The layer is sunny and wet with a refreshing breeze, but is more sheltered than the emergent layer above. We also have wildlife that lives here, and we have more wildlife living in this layer than any of the other layers. You have, for example, a toco toucan and a two-toed sloth. Then below the canopy is the understory, which is warm, damp, and sheltered layer below the canopy. The leafy bushes, shade-loving plants, and short trees provide cover for the sloths, jaguars, and small animals such as frogs. Other animals that also live in this environment include a giant bulldog bat, a sparkling Voltaire hummingbird. We can see here that this layer is thick and full of leafy bushes and also has much more shade. So less sunlight and less waterfall gets to this part of the rainforest. The last of the layers is the forest floor, which is the darkest and dampest layer. In this layer, you have dead leaves from the layers above that cover the ground, and fungi feed on them. Many millions of insects live among the dead leaves, providing food for insect-eating animals. And you can see here a giant anteater and a Hercules beetle. This layer receives the least amount of sunlight and the least amount of rainfall. So, thinking about the different layers and the different parts of the rainforests that we have thought about, I want you to pause the video now and I want you to think about which definition matches the rainforest layer. Before you pause it, I'm going to read the different definitions. So the first definition, in this layer lives snakes, sloths, tree frogs, and other animals on these branches. This is one of the coolest areas and is often well shaded. Then the second definition, birds, bats, and butterflies live in the tops of the tallest trees. Then we have animals such as jaguars can be found. This is the area that gets the least sunlight, and insects live in abundance here. And then our last definition, in the tops of the short trees, you can find animals such as toucans and monkeys. This is a light area and full of life. This can act as an umbrella to the areas beneath. So now, can you pause your video? Which definition matches each part of the 4 layers of the rainforest? Pause your video and have a try. Excellent. You were able to identify that the understory has the snakes, sloths, and tree frogs. The emergent layer is the tallest layer. So we can see by identifying those key words, it has the tops of the tallest trees. The forest floors we know has the least light, and insects live in abundance here. The canopy is the area which has the light and full of life. It's full of life because the most number of species live in the canopy area. So well done for matching the correct rainforest layer to the definitions. So what is your task today? I want you to be able to identify and explain the layers of the rainforest. And just to help you, you have some word banks as well that you can include. So you have the words shade, tall, branches, floor, insect, dark, sunlight, rainfall, damp, and windy. And as you can see, you have the name of the layer at the top. So for example, if we were to do the first one, we would say the name of the layer at the top is the emergent layer. The description is that it has the tallest trees and receives the most sunlight. And for the species found there, we would discuss eagles and any tall, big birds that like to live at the top of the emergent layer. So what you will then do is complete for each layer following. So the canopy and the under storage and also the shrub floor or the floor of the rainforest. And here's an example of how you can actually describe the different layers of the rainforest. So if you're unsure of how to describe the rainforest, you could use some of these closed sentence frames. So for example, we know that some very tall trees tower above the main forest layer. These are called. Then this layer is called the many birds, monkeys, and other animals live here. And then here is a more airy and climbing plants can be found here. This is the, what layer is that? And on the, it is dark, hot, and humid, and that can be a nice little guide to help you complete your sentences. So how do the layers in the rainforest support biodiversity? I want you to see if you can challenge yourself to be able to see if you can answer this question. How do the layers in the rainforest support biodiversity? So in this lesson, we were able to name the 4 layers of the rainforest. Can you remember what they were? We were also able to recall where most animals live in the rainforest and why. And we were also able to understand why do not many plants grow on the forest floor. Thank you so much for joining me in our 3rd lesson about the rainforest and understanding and gaining more knowledge on the different layers of the rainforest.